So in this next series of videos, I met up with my friend Jeremy, who is a Helix user, and I just wanted to get together with him and kind of compare and contrast the Headrush versus the Helix and see how the two units are laid out, see how you can build rigs. So in this first video, we're going to actually look at the Helix basics and see how it's laid out, see how you can make a basic patch or preset or rig, whatever you want to call it. And I was holding my camera with my hands, so a lot of times the focus and the shot really isn't that great. But these videos are more about just the conversation that we had and not so much about the amazing lighting and video camera work. So just keep that in mind when you're watching these videos. And I think for anybody who's looking into this topic, there's really not like a super clear winner. Both units are great. They can do amazing things. It just really comes down to workflow and how easily you get around the unit to create the tones that you hear in your head. So let's go ahead and check out this first video and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, all right? Alright, so let's just go over some Helix basics here. So, Jeremy, what would you do if you were wanting to just set up a new patch? What would be your first step?
Typically, just a basic patch. You can set up linear like this one is. You can see at the beginning of the chain you've got the guitar coming in, and then you're going to go straight across from here. Then everything drops down, and then all the way out down here.
Okay.
This one is set up so you've got your compressor at the beginning, and you've got your drives.
Yep.
And then those go into the amp. Another compressor after volume, and then this one's set up with an IR. You can have either IR or a cab.
Right.
And then some modulation delays after linear verbs. So that's kind of a typical patch as far as that goes with your sequencing.
Okay, and basically what you're doing is you're using this little jog wheel to either go back and forth. Mm-hmm. You can turn it as well. So if you want to change, like if you get like a delay, you get to it, you can either turn the wheel to change the delay or maybe like push on it to change the actual effect.
Yeah, that'll bring up your menu.
Right, so really one knob can either go left or right, you can push it or you can turn it to change the different parameters. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. So once you go in here, like if I want this delay to be on a certain switch, what are you going to do? How would you assign it to a switch?
Let's see. I'm not sure if you can do that from here.
Trails are on or off.
Yeah, you've got all your settings down here at the bottom as far as your time dotted eighth, or if you want to go quarter.
What if you hit action? What does that do when you're on the delay? Okay, you can copy, you can clear a block, clear all blocks. Remove joystick to move block, move down to create a B path, which is cool. Now with the Helix, under the HX effects, there's controller assign, command center, global EQ, global settings. There's a way to go into a, what's it called? It's just signal path, really. It's called signal path. Which is basically what this is, essentially.
I'm not sure. I usually do a lot of my editing through the software itself. I think a lot of the more complex things you end up doing through the software itself, especially setting up and customizing your patch names, your snapshots down bottom.
Because right now you're on you're on snapshots, which I understand a snapshot to be you're taking a picture of a certain effects on or off and the parameter that you want. Mm-hmm. So like say for instance you wanted your overdrive right here to be, you got your monitor, right? And it's on a certain gain, a tone, a level. But when you switch over to snapshot 2, that same effect, see now it's off. Mm-hmm. See, I could either have it on. That's not what I wanted. Ooh, how do you turn it back on?
I think you had it there on snapshot 1.
Yeah.
Or if you want to just shut that off.
Yeah, that's what it was. Bypass.
You can hit bypass, and that'll toggle.
So on snapshot 2, if I wanted this to be back on, I could hit bypass again, and I could change the gain, right, and then save that. Mm-hmm. So when you go from snapshot 1 to snapshot 2, that gain is now going to be higher,
right,
versus the snapshot 1, which is cool. So I mean, it's still fairly easy to get around, but it looks like you have to kind of play with it a little bit to figure out where things are. If you didn't have the editor on the computer. Mm-hmm. Which they finally, in the last HX update, they included the HX edit. It's where you can actually do the on-screen editing like you can with a Helix, and that's really cool way to do things. So, because we have our presets and we have our snapshots, mm-hmm. Hit mode right there.
Yep, that'll take you into your stomp box.
And that'll take you in, yeah, so one of the guys on the Headrush group, he recently got a Headrush, and he has been a Helix user for however long. Mm-hmm. I think he got the Headrush because he got a really good deal on it. But he was like, why can't I have a stomp view and a snapshot view just by hitting one button? Because on the on the Headrush, this mode button right here is actually a looper for us. All right, we just hit the looper and we're automatically in looper mode.
Okay.
You know, for the Helix, from what I understand, you have to add an actual looper block in there to actually have a looper.
Correct.
Which is fine. Because he was like, well, is there a way for me to reassign this switch to do something different? It's like, no, that's just a looper. Sorry.
Okay.
You know, for the Headrush, this button down here, if you press and hold it, you can have different views. Kind of like what the mode button does. But for the Headrush, you have stomp view, you have rig view, so you can just see like multiple rigs on the scribble strips.
Right.
There's a hybrid view, which is kind of similar to what the mode button does, but it basically gives you presets going along the top, and then it gives you the stomps or scenes going along the bottom. And a scene for a Headrush is kind of like a snapshot for a Helix.
Okay. Except
on the Headrush, you can't save different parameters within the same rig. They're just either on or off.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So that's kind of the main difference right there. To me, it's just, you know, the Helix lays out the functionality a little bit different. And it actually has a little bit more functionality than the Headrush does. But you can dive a lot deeper into like the parameters and change different stuff with the Helix versus the Headrush is just it's more straightforward. It's more like I have a real amp, I have some real pedals. I'm just going to combine those into scenes. I can turn them on or off per scene. Mm-hmm. Or you can make multiple different rigs, put them all in a set list, and then you can basically switch between those rigs within the set list. And kind of accomplish the same kind of things. But Helix just does it a little more, with a little bit more finesse, I guess. For lack of a better word. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There is somewhat of customization down here too.
As far as
whether you want snapshots or if you just want, you know, your top row to be one set of things and your bottom another. So it just depends on how complex you want it to be or how simple you want that to be as well.
That's really cool. Oh yeah, definitely. You can make it as easy or as complex as you want it to be, really. And at the end of the day, it's not more complex. It's just You're just adding a little bit more, an extra depth of functionality
Right.
to what the switches can do and how it's laid out. Because you might want snapshots across the front or the top, and then stomps along the bottom or
Right.
something. You can do that, right?
Yeah, basically. Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think you can do that with HX effects. It's you're either in preset mode, stomp mode, or snapshot mode.
Okay.
And if you want to get out of that, you have to press these two buttons at the same time to basically swap between the different either preset, snapshot, or stomp, or whatever else. There might be a third one called. I can't remember, but and then one of the buttons over here actually takes you into stomp mode, just like it does there. So there's basically a mode switch for the HX. They can go either all your stomps, all your snapshots, or if you press these two buttons, it takes you back into preset mode. You can switch between different presets. And per preset, see what it did right there? It's blinking, so it's wanting me to do something, which I'm not going to do. So it kind of does similar things to what the Helix does. It's just you have to utilize a combination of buttons to do what one button does on the Helix. So, all right, well, let's do this. Let's go on to the Headrush over here, and let me kind of walk you through the hierarchy of how things are laid out over here. Okay. And let's see how quick you can kind of catch up on it. Hey, wait a second. Before you go, be sure to check out the description down below. There's a lot of really cool links. And definitely be sure to check out my website, drmcfarlandstudios.com. See ya.